And here we are. This is where I'm supposed to scream at you, but I'm not that guy. So, tonight's topic, very charged. Free weights versus machines. It's sort of like BMW versus Mercedes, even though who would drive a BMW? Or Nike versus Adidas, but then who's ever gonna wear Nike? So machines versus free weights, it's almost like a religion. So in the one corner, there are the people that machines have always, I knew they shouldn't be here. Free weights have always been here. They've worked forever. They're great. Who's right? So before we go into that, one of the biggest fallacies in the fitness world is always to say, well, this works because I know this guy who did a show and he got really big doing X. And that's simply nonsense. That's just a story. So there are countless guys that got big using free weights only because that's all they had. But we don't know if they couldn't have gotten bigger or better or fewer injuries if they had access to machines. So in the video, I want to go over a couple pointers, what people say about one or the other, and then see what the conclusion is, okay? I would ask that you ask all comments at the end, so I don't lose my feeble train of thought. So number one is always, free weights are more natural. Well, not really, because natural would be like rocks and logs and lifting people or torpedo hulls, right? So dumbbells and barbells are designed, right? So like a barbell is perfectly balanced to allow you to carry the greatest amount of weight. So for instance, I can overhead press whatever that's worth 220 with a barbell. If you give me a log, a tree trunk or whatever, I cannot probably even do 150 pounds. So free weights are really not all that natural. So the argument is kind of like, I'm not sure what that even means. The big one is always, free weights build more muscle. How would that work? So muscle is being built through tension and frequency and the load. So machines allow for all this, to an extent even better, because a lot of people, when they do free weights, they struggle with the balance and they do more balancing than actual training. So the machines actually do better job in terms of isolating the muscle. Also, they are less stressful. So if you're squatting, that's basically fight or flight. But if you're leg pressing, it's not so stressful as in the nervous system, which means you can do it more often. The more often you can train, the bigger you will get, right? So the thought that free weights somehow create more muscle is simply not true, because they don't create more tension in machines, they don't allow for greater load, and they don't allow for greater frequency. Machines do just the same. Muscles don't have eyes. So in the bodybuilding world, we often get pigeonholed by people saying like, this has always been done that way. Well, people went to California on horseback, but planes are still better, right? So the argument that free weights build more muscle is simply doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Then we have, they build real strength, free weights. Yeah, I guess, if you're a power lifter, then you should squat and deadlift and bench press, right? But if you're a bodybuilder, like, who cares how strong you are? The bigger issue is don't get injured and train more often. So for that, machines are better. The next argument is that free weights train the stabilizer muscles. That is correct. So if I'm doing, let's say, shall we say, Superman press, it's much, much harder than to do a machine press. Now you could argue that as a bodybuilder, do I need to stabilize the muscles? And I would say to an extent, yes. So let's say your goal is not to play in the NBA and dunk, but you still want to be somewhat a functional human being, so you can play with your kids and not rupture your rotator cuff when you're throwing on a cigarette butt or something like that. I've seen that. People being too muscle bound because they don't train in mid-range, they do this and the cuff goes. So then there's some value to free weights because they allow for that particular balance. The problem is, that's the catch-22, a lot of people today are not ready to train with free weights simply because they didn't play as kids. So they come to the gym and they're being told, you gotta use free weights to build more muscle. And they're simply not ready. Their coordination is not there. Then I have free weights feel more natural. That's not true at all. For instance, if I'm doing an underhanded row, look at my elbows. Is that a natural position? I can't flex my lats. And it puts my elbow here in a very unnatural position. Whereas if I had a cable, or at least an easy bar, I could do this, and now I got something. If I'm curling a barbell, I cannot tilt out as I could with a dumbbell at least, or free weight, or cables, right? So machines sometimes allow for better ergonomics, especially new ones. They allow to go single. So with a barbell, if I'm pressing something, my stronger arm might be doing 80% of the work. My weaker arm falls further and further behind. Whereas if I'm going on hammer strengths, they move individually, then I can actually see what's going on, right? So machines, especially cables, adapt better than especially barbells. Dumbbells being a different story. Like I said, guys, hold the questions to the end. I cannot read the questions and keep my train of thought. Machines are good to isolate. That's true. Because machines allow for isolation. You don't have to worry about balance. And you can just rep out. Which is why most bodybuilders use only machines. Plain and simple, because there's no risk of getting injured, or much fewer, much less, right? So now the question is, how do you bring it all together? So let's get this free weights, build more mass. That's all nonsense. Okay, let's get out of your head. Mass is being built by tension, frequency, and load. Machines allow for all of that, often better. So it comes down to you. So if you're very tall, some machines might not fit for you. Then you have to work on free weights. By the same token, like I said, cables are very, very versatile. So let me get a really dry mouse here. Much better. So what's critical is, you have to be critical. You have to think, am I doing this because somebody said so? Because you read a story about some guy who did something and it turned out that way? And also, some people are simply born to train with free weights, but you and I might not be. So does this exercise give me the most amount of tension? For instance, a cable fly beats a dumbbell fly any given time. The reason being, the dumbbell fly, he has no resistance. Whereas the cable, it's equal resistance. So there, the cable wins, hands down. More fibers activated, more muscle grows, more tension. Does this feel right? So for instance, my brother's really tall. He's 6'8". If he does a barbell squat, his knees travel out so far that it's murderous. The trap bar squat works much better for him. Questions at the end, guys, please. Of course, if you're a power lifter, you need the free weights, because that's your sport. For sports in general, you need the ability, the agility, that's fine. We're talking about straight up bodybuilding. So in bodybuilding, the key is also frequency. Since machines are less stressful on the central nervous system, you can train more often. The more often you can train, the bigger you will get. There's no two ways about it. And then there's also, let's say you're a pro bodybuilder. There's no way this guy can do a pull-up. His bicep would rupture. So then the lat pull-down comes in just fine. So in general, you have to think in movement patterns. There's the squat, there's the hip hinge, there's the push, there's the pull. They can all be filled with different movements, right? So the squat can be the leg press, can be the step up, can be the lunge, can be the squat, can be the cable squat, and so on and so forth. The hip hinge, like I said, different deadlifts, cable deadlift, can also be the good morning. The push can be, like I said, all kinds of machines, cable presses, push-ups, free weight press, and so on and so forth. And the pull can be pull-ups, pull-down rows, and so forth. It also depends on you. Like, I have kids, so sometimes I get very little sleep. Do I go to the gym and try to be King Kong, moving around free weights, and injure myself? Or do I say, today is not the day, and I do machines, and I get a great pump, and then when I feel more energetic, I can tackle the free weights. But the most important thing you got to take away from this is that there's no magic in free weights. They do not build any more muscle than machines. Most people struggle with free weights, and that's why they have these physiques that are like this, a little bit of muscle on the knee, nothing on the quad, because they can't do the full range of motion, because they don't have the ability to properly balance and actually activate the muscle they're trying to do. So they'd be much, much better off doing machine circuit than struggling with the free weights. Exception being, of course, powerlifters, people that play a sport, and people that are too tall to fit in the machines, too short, and so on and so forth. Lastly, since it's the dark month of the year, one of the best antidepressants is the machine circuit. Let's say you come to the gym, and you're not feeling it. You set your phone as a timer, 20 minutes, and you just go from machine to machine. Short breaks, 10, 15 seconds only. I guarantee after 20 minutes you will feel much better. Whereas if that person would be trying to do free weights, it would end in disaster, okay? So, think in movement patterns. Squat, hip hinge, push and pull. You must do all of them, but you don't need to do them with free weights. You can if they suit you. But some free weight movements are simply bad, such as the bent over row or the barbell curl. They do not work the muscle properly. There are better ways to do so. Do not get pigeonholed. Use your head and watch my videos. Maik out.